Welcome to episode 4 of our podcast here at Fraser Valley, India. I'm Andrea, your host, UFV/FEI alum, and today we have with us David McGuire, the Associate Vice President of UFV International. Welcome, David.
Thanks, Andrea. It's wonderful to be here, as always. Every time I come to Chandigarh, and in particular this location at FEI, I always feel like it's a second home for me. So it's wonderful to be here. Thanks.
This obviously isn't your first time at FEI. How many times do you think you've come here?
Typically in a normal year, I would come here probably 2 times per year. But we all know we had a little blip of about 3 not so normal years in there during and immediately after the COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, no travel happened at that time, but a number of video conferences where I felt like I could still connect to people who've been here. So it feels like it's been constant.
Can you please give a brief introduction of yourself for those viewers or listeners that may not know you?
I'm the Associate Vice President International at the University of the Fraser Valley. I've been there for going on 11 years. Incidentally, it's the longest I've ever worked at any single place. That was a realization that came a number of years ago. Prior to that, I worked in the Ontario post-secondary sector at a wonderful institution named Wilfrid Laurier University, located in Waterloo, Ontario. And then before that, I was working at the oldest public English language university in North America, the University of New Brunswick in my hometown of St. John, New Brunswick. That's where I'm from. So I've gone from the East Coast, a little stop in Ontario, and then all the way to the West Coast. Prior to that, I worked at 2 post-secondary institutions in the Republic of Korea, which was also a wonderful, transformative experience.
You mentioned that 11 years, which is the period of time that you've worked for UFV, is the longest period of time that you've ever spent with any one institution.
Yeah.
What do you think it is that has tied you so closely to UFV?
Yeah, there are some practical reasons. Obviously, you know, when I have 2 kids, they're not kids anymore. They're wonderful, high-achieving adults at the university age, actually. But when you have younger children, it's sometimes, depending on the age of your kids, it's easy or not so easy to move around. But there's something about British Columbia that is particularly magical, I would say. Sometimes we take it for granted, the scenery, the nature, and even things that people warned me about beforehand, like the rain. You start to embrace certain things. Like I like walking through a rainforest in the rain because, you know, there are certain smells and sights that you might not normally have an appreciation for. But in terms of the institution, UFV, of course, is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. And as such, it's an institution that's gone through, I don't want to say constant change, but change is something that's almost embedded in the DNA of the institution. And with our rapidly evolving international education sector, having an institution that is open to change, because it's happened regularly in its history, I think has almost conditioned people to welcoming some new ideas, and maybe not being stuck in ways that perhaps a 100-year-old institution may struggle with. So on the international education front, there's been incredible support, from the Students' Union, as well as from the faculty who share wonderful stories about the students in their classrooms. But most importantly, I think at the senior administration level for me personally, because we're given the opportunity to do some exciting things in a very dynamic space, and that's probably the thing that's kept me there the longest, I would say.
What can you tell us about the international office, particularly for those students that may not know very much about the international office?
Sure. International offices vary widely from institution to institution. Where I was previously, for instance, we had an international recruitment and admissions team, and then on the other side of campus, we had an office that dealt with international student supports and whatnot. And I found that sometimes when there's a physical separation, some of the synergies of working together to solve a particular problem or come up with an innovative idea, sometimes they don't happen because there's a little bit of siloing. UFV thankfully is at just the right size where we can be all in one office. There are about, on any given day, I would say, we have about 25 staff. The number fluctuates. People will go on vacation. People are sometimes sick. Sometimes there's vacancies, but there's about 25 full-time positions in our area. And we've broken our leadership team down in UFV International in a few different ways. So we have a director of UFV International, who I think was maybe highlighted on one of your previous episodes. That's Dr. Daryl Smith. And Daryl oversees the global engagement team as well as our operations team. Now, those words may not mean a whole lot to someone who's not right in our office, but the global engagement team they have some student engagement officers who assist with organizing events to try and make students come together and feel welcome in their new environment. Some of the people, the students on the team that help out as well, they're often upper year students who've gone through an international experience with us and have decided that they want to either give back by volunteering or act as a student employee. They also have a new position that we've created. Now, the pandemic highlighted a number of challenges across every sector, impacted people in ways that unimaginable for some. So we've created these international student success coordinators to try and act as support personnel for students at every stage of their journey, but in particular, the fragile first sort of period where students come. When we look at data across post-secondary, quite often the time that students find most challenging is the beginning. We rarely have to help students in third or fourth year get through major challenges related to the transition and whatnot, because they've already experienced that. But the first 3 semesters, obviously there are all kinds of challenges. So the international student support coordinators help with that, including now assistance related to transition and settlement. Very important, as we hear often about housing crises and so on and so forth. So they do that as well. We have so there's 2 folks that do work in that area. There's a manager of global engagement in that area, international student success. In addition, we have some of the operations personnel they take care of jobs that keep our office running and the experience with the students sometimes seamless. So financial, medical, insurance-related things, immigration advice, which of course, particularly in such a vibrant area as here, which has seen 100+ years of migration from northern India to our part of Canada. Many people are looking at education as a potential pathway to stay a little bit longer. And then we have credit articulation staff. There's all kinds of people in the realm of the global engagement as well as operations that really really do things to make sure that the students have as smooth of a ride as possible. We also have an arm of our team that's dedicated to marketing and applicant relations, trying to get the word out about UFV in areas that we may not have visited. Travel, of course, is expensive, and a lot of people are looking to the internet to do their own research on possible post-secondary options. Then we have recruiters that go and do physical travel and meet students, in their own countries. And then we have another whole area called international relations, and these folks, they deal with the partnerships, credit articulation, as well as something that often gets overlooked here, but I just had an opportunity over lunch to talk to some students about it, and that is something I know you've experienced, and that is the wonderful study abroad opportunities that we have, and of course the associated funding for that. So just because you're an international student coming to Canada doesn't mean that you don't have some of the same opportunities to go explore partnerships in other places. There are obviously other administrative functions within our area. We have a global lounge, wonderful people that create programming in the global lounge to make that kind of the home away from home for our students. And of course, front desk and administrative support as well for people coming in for questions on all areas of issues that they might have that we may be able to solve or address in UFV International, or in some cases we may direct a student to another area that's better suited to help them out. Sorry, that's a bit of a long answer. I should have noted actually in my previous answer to the question, one of the other things that has kept me at UFV so long is the incredible team I have. Sometimes we take that for granted, but you have a good sized team that has a broad array of responsibilities, and I think because of that, we're able to do things for students that maybe a small, under-resourced team wouldn't be able to do, and it just makes the job that much more rewarding.
What does UFV International do to support international students in the social adaptation and integration aspect of their transition?
That happens at a number of different stages of the student journey, okay? During the pandemic, we I don't want to say we piloted because it wasn't a pilot because we had to do it, but an online orientation. And did that a few times, worked out some kinks. So everybody was online, either on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or something. And what we realized from that journey was that, wait a minute, when students physically come to campus, we want them connecting with people, not listening to somebody talking about what may be something kind of boring at the front of a room, or something that they could quite easily read on their own time. So not to suggest that the activities in the virtual orientation are boring in any way, but a lot of it is sort of a journey, like check this off because you've watched a session online and you've watched videos and you've answered questions and you've asked questions about very, very important parts prior to getting on a plane and making that big trip here, 17, 20 hours, depending on where you're coming from. So when they do touchdown, we have about a day or a day and a half, depending on the semester, where we mobilize a team of, in some cases it's been 80 volunteers. We call global engagement volunteers. And we get the students into our office and we get them acclimated a little bit. But more importantly, we introduce them to the other service areas that are available to them as a student. Of course, we introduce what we do in UFV International, but despite the fairly big, wonderful team we have, a lot of things are done elsewhere. IT, of course, is elsewhere. The student supports with like counseling, academic advising, that's elsewhere. So it's imperative, I think, to take that time in a friendly way to show them around campus and also point out some of these wonderful services that they either really should take advantage of or hopefully someday they never have to take advantage of. Once the term gets going, we have this really cool program called En Route, and students pay a very, very small fee. I think it's $15 or something. It's heavily subsidized by our office, and they go off often on a bus and go do something cool with a group of 45, or if there's 2 buses, maybe 100 people. That could be a trip into Vancouver. It could be a trip to Whistler for skiing or snowboarding or something like that, or the beach. So there are those types of activities. Then there are, not everybody wants to strap on a snowboard and go down a mountain. There are peer mentorship programs that we run in the Global Lounge as well. One is called Friends Without Borders. We've been running that for, I think, probably 8 years now. It's gone through a number of permutations, but it's a several week-long program, multicultural peer mentorship program where, when I leave the office, if they have a session going on, it's wonderful to see the diverse groups of students with wonderful opinions, and it's a safe space to ask questions about areas, other cultures that you might not fully understand, and a great way to get to know people too. We have a games night. That's always fun. Sometimes there are people doing karaoke. We have a big video wall whenever there's a big major sports event, such as the Olympics or the World Cup. That's in there. And people from all over campus. You'll have faculty members. You'll have students, staff, administrators just packed in our Global Lounge, sometimes making jabs at one another because they're rooting against different teams, that sort of thing. Our former VP External, Craig Toes, a person I still connect with, he called our Global Lounge an energy center on campus. We want to try and keep it that way. So there's usually stuff going on there, both during the day and after hours.
What are some of the initiatives or activities, events that you see international students engaging with the most?
There's nothing like a competitive athletic event to bring people together. Those are perhaps the areas where I've seen our Global Lounge the most vibrant. Music, food. Anytime there's food, especially with students, if we want to get students into an area, we make sure there's food available. And I think back to when I was a student, and that would certainly attract me too. So sometimes there are events that are kind of like multicultural days where everyone will present a food from their own country. That's always a popular one.
So as the Associate VP of UFV International, you not only get to experience these fun things, but you must have students coming into your office all the time with different issues that they're experiencing, different issues that they need help with, basically. Yeah. So what are some of the things that you see FVI students coming to the international office for?
This is probably the area where this program has the biggest strength. Think of an orientation session. Maybe it's one day, maybe in some cases, again, depending on the term. And if you combine an international orientation with the overall student orientation, it might be 4 days. People are jacked up on excitement, and they may not retain all the information that they get. Very, very important information that could really serve them well, or if they're not paying attention, could potentially derail part of their educational journey if they're not paying attention. But a lot of that information is embedded here day in, day out. So it's almost like in addition to a wonderfully engaging academic experience, a wonderfully engaging social experience, on top of that, it's kind of like for a lot of the students here, almost like a 2-year orientation, where in a safe space where students might, we have small class sizes, as you know, in Canada, but here in many cases they're even smaller, and there's the whole. It's almost like a microcosm of the broader university. So unlike some of the challenges we see for regular students, maybe they've run into a problem with plagiarism. Okay, they copied something, and quite often it's innocent. They just weren't fully aware of the referencing. Or maybe there's an issue with a roommate, something like that. Maybe there was an academic problem, a bad quiz, bad test. But some of the things I've seen that the FVI students come in with, and I'll never forget this. One young gentleman, he came into our office, and we thought, oh, I wonder how we can help him, because it was at a time when we were getting a lot of students, stressed students coming in and asking questions for support. What he wanted direction to kind of go to a higher level. I mean, he wanted to connect with some people to see how he could pave the way. He wasn't coming in looking for a job. He was coming in asking about types of things that he could put on his CV so that later on he would know where to apply for. And he was I introduced him to about 6 people on my team, and he was very proudly conveying his expertise that he honed here at Fraser Valley, India. And it was such a refreshing experience seeing a student come in and say, hey, I had this great experience for 2 years. I want to continue my trajectory and do something sort of magical here in Abbotsford too. And it was wonderful.
So ultimately, what do you think the FVI advantage is for students that are looking for that international education experience, that are wanting to ultimately move to Canada, but starting off their education here in India?
The bit that I mentioned about it kind of being like a 2-year orientation, you have again, if a student does their studies here for 2 years, that is a 2-year runway to prepare for what is undoubtedly, for somebody at the age of 20, the biggest move of their life. An incredible investment, not just in, we often think of finances, but the thing that sometimes gets overlooked is time. And I mean, that point in your life is one of the most important times to sort of set yourself on a path to do everything you can as much as possible to ensure success in the future. People that are bombarded with the wonderful things that happen here at FVI for a 2-year period, they land in Canada, they come into our office, they say, hi, I'm here, and they hit the ground running. They are then incredibly successful on the academic side. Okay, and we have we have 19 years of data to back this up. The students that come to us from Fraser Valley, India are the best prepared students we could receive from any channel. And quite often they're some of the highest performing students at the university, period. Not international, not from India, students. But the part that sometimes gets overlooked is the things that happen outside the classroom. So if I go to, let's say there's a Senate or a committee of Senate, governance, a university governance committee, board of governors, whatever. It's not uncommon to see an international student on a panel or on a committee, but sometimes when you dig a little deeper, it's a student that came from here. Similarly, student government, we often see representation. The activities and the opportunities presented by what is now called the Center for Experiential and Career Education. Student employees from one of my staff is an alumnus from here. A wonderful, proud student that began his journey here. So those are the things that, how do you put a price tag on that? It's leadership and opportunities to really, at that critical time, make some moves that will really do you well in the years ahead post-graduation.
What do you think it is that makes this period of time, these couple of years for our students so important and almost pivotal for the rest of their lives?
I don't think that comment is necessarily unique to the students here. I think it's, you think of 18 to 20. A lot happens, a lot of firsts happen. Sometimes people might get their first job, maybe their, first boyfriend, girlfriend, all kinds of things happen. So it's a pivotal time, but life here, possibly living with mom and dad, versus life in another country on the other side of the planet. I'll say alone, but it's probably with roommates. There's all sorts of things that happen. We have students coming in, they laugh about it after they learn, but they're like, I didn't know how to cook. I saw people operating the washing machine, but I didn't know how to use it. So there, in addition to all of the challenges of a new educational system at not only a higher level period, but a higher level in a completely different environment, coupled with the challenges of being on your own in another country, and sometimes there's a fear tied in there too. I think a lot of the students from here might embrace it almost as an exciting element. But yeah, there's a lot to take in for any student at that period. But when you're making the vast number of changes to go from here to where we are, they compound one another, and we see it. I mean, students that aren't prepared, they sometimes they need to sit down and talk to someone. And thankfully in Canada, the supports we have for that to get people on the right track, hopefully, are there. So it's an incredibly important time. It's an exciting time, but for students from all backgrounds. But when you're making a big monumental change like that, it really what might have been a small issue in your household is now a major issue. Yeah, it's just, and people deal with challenges in different ways. Like I said, I think a lot of people embrace them. The ones that come from here, sometimes I see them and they have almost a fire in their eyes, like I've got something to prove. It's a wonderful thing to witness unfold.
What's a piece of advice that you'd offer to FEI students who are soon going to transfer to UFV Canada?
So I don't want to use the same story twice, but the guy that came into my office, I don't know, it was about a year ago. I don't know if we were any help to him, but in his mind, he was not going to waste a moment in making connections from the point he landed. And that may be a bit of an extreme case, but I tell any student, we look at the fees associated with university study in Canada, and people always gravitate to the tuition. It's the biggest number. That's mostly what you're paying for. You're getting an education. Somebody's going to help you in your learning journey and all that sort of thing. But I think one of the most important things is to understand fully what is at your disposal at the university. Universities in Canada invest millions and millions of dollars into things that are outside of the classroom, supports, IT services, student engagement functions, and so on and so forth. And if a student is not aware of all those things, they're kind of missing out. They're like I said earlier, there are certain things you hope nobody as ever has to use. They're there kind of like insurance, you know. Then there are things that you hope every student would use. A couple of examples. I mean, we have a center for accessibility that it's, you break your arm, they can help you with some test writing, that sort of thing. But you hope, you don't wish that on anyone. But the Center for Experiential and Career Education, for instance, that's a resource. Everyone who wants to become employed or embark on some kind of engaging experience outside the classroom, they should go there and check out what's on offer. Yeah, and thankfully, I think the students coming from here already have that mindset, but still there's a lot on offer in Canada that they may possibly miss out on if they're they're not fully aware when they land.
And what's a piece of advice that you'd offer to students who are not yet FEI students but are considering joining FEI?
Any institution that is comfortable in what they're doing can be comfortable enough in saying this may not be for everyone. I've talked to people before and said, maybe our institution isn't for everyone. I've literally said to students, if you want to go and hide in the back of a classroom and never know your professor, you probably want to go to the bigger universities, because this isn't the place. Yeah, UFV isn't the place, and this isn't the place. But for someone who is really looking at going to Canada and they want the best way I could frame it up is they really want a head start. I would say that's the biggest value add here, because it's a difficult, challenging, in a good way, a challenging learning environment here too. But it's also a wonderful transition period from previous schooling to life in Canada. This is a wonderful sort of middle step, and I think students that want a head start on their time in Canada, this is a wonderful opportunity for them. And I would say we're located here in Chandigarh, but it's wonderful to see students from Delhi and Mumbai. And I think there were even a few applications from Nepal and other surrounding countries here. Thankfully, the little secret of this gem in Sector 32 is getting out wider. So yeah, it's a wonderful head start. Anyone that tells you that there are guarantees for this or that or whatever, you see the signs on the banners, guaranteed visa, you only need an IELTS, this, that, they're just not true. But I can speak from a statistical perspective from, I think the number we were throwing around earlier was, in the 4 digits of students that have transitioned from here to our area. And it is, and this is a fact, statistically, it is the biggest factor in student success. If we look at all the factors, we say, oh, wow, let's look at students who are really successful. What's the one thing that is consistent in the vast majority of cases, and it's the ones who come here are the most successful. And we measure success from a quantitative perspective often in 2 things. And this is not just UFE, it's generally. Average GPA, okay, you want students to get, A pluses and A's and B pluses. And the thing we sometimes forget is, why are we doing what we're doing? We're doing it because we want to see students walk across the stage and get the credential that they came for. And that is time to graduation. And our average GPA of the FEI students is fantastic. The time to graduation is fantastic. It's good for all students, but these ones really sort of rise above the rest. The thing that I know anecdotally, and I mentioned it earlier in one of your questions, but it's harder to track from sort of a statistical perspective, is the engagement outside of the classroom. Job opportunities, student government, broader university-wide governance, working in a dean's office, and so on and so forth. And then we see some of those people come back here and they're successful business owners and so on and so forth. Sometimes they go on to other institutions, pursue higher studies, maybe start a business in Canada. But yeah, it's a wonderful thing that we got going here.
I'd like to sort of shift gears a little bit and talk about the recent announcements from the Government of Canada regarding international student enrollment caps. What can you tell us about that? To hopefully give our viewers a little bit of peace of mind, how do you anticipate the scenario unfolding?
The first thing I would say is don't worry. And I say that I've been involved in hundreds of conversations about this since this announcement on January 22nd. So why, first of all, talk about why that was announced. It was announced for a couple of reasons, okay? And I don't want to point all the blame at external factors. We see the term bad actors and so on and so forth, and it's almost like 100% of the blame is being placed on, in the previous point, I said people guaranteeing things, and we see them on the signs and whatnot. Sure, that's part of the problem, but really the popularity of international education in Canada has skyrocketed here in the last number of years, and as the numbers go up, obviously, you need additional support services, you need housing, you need supports to help students, transition and integrate into the university community and the wider community. And I don't think every institution was prepared to launch those types of support services. So I think in some cases, things for some institutions, things grew maybe a little too quickly, and it's not a closing the door. It's simply a pause at the high point of Canada being one of the most attractive destinations in the world for international students. Now, from a national perspective, while immigration is something that is managed by the federal government, post-secondary education is a provincial matter. So the federal government has allocated a number for these sort of study permit applications by province, and then distributed them. The province then distributed them to the various education providers in the province. That includes private and public colleges as well as public universities. There are a number of areas that were exempt, but UFV received our allocation, and we're very happy with it. This will have not an impact on our operations really at all, because there are a couple of things that we already had in the planning or had just started that are key to, I think, ensuring that Canada is a welcoming destination for international students, and BC and UFV is a welcoming destination for international students. So what I can say, and I don't want to get into too many technicalities because it actually gets a little boring, but when students now apply for their study permit, they have to add a provincial attestation letter that sort of says, okay, you're using up one of the spaces that we've allocated for the province. Everyone from FVI will get one of them. That was decided before we even knew the number. We are putting the biggest priority on the students here. They came here with UFV in their sights 1 or 2 years down the road. Why would and the track record of the students that we get from here is incredible. Why would we stop such a good thing? But we're open for all other students too. I mean, it's really going to have. It's an additional administrative process right now, but hopefully, like a lot of things, if the student doesn't really notice any change, it means we've done a good job. And I'm confident that that's how things are going to pan out for not just UFV, but I think British Columbia as a province is really well positioned to handle this.
So ultimately, what would you like to communicate to FVI students who are wanting to transfer?
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
You're coming. We'll see you in a year or two.
You've been with UFV for over a decade now. Are there any upcoming initiatives or projects that you'd like to speak a little bit about for our viewers and listeners?
There's some couple of exciting things going on that may impact students in a really good way if they're interested in further developing intercultural competencies or maybe connecting with other students and other faculties. It's something called COIL, COIL, Collaborative Online International or Intercultural Learning. And what we're doing is we're reaching out, we're creating sort of a forum for UFV faculty members to connect with faculty members from certain partner institutions that have expressed an interest in this kind of collaboration. They get together. It's kind of a matchmaking exercise. So you teach communications, I teach communications. Maybe we can develop a course together, and then students from Spain and students from UFV might be in a section together. It takes a lot of work from a lot of different people, and our faculty are very hardworking, and they don't get an extra bonus for doing COIL type stuff, but thankfully many of them are showing a keen interest in this type of thing. So that's something that it's fairly new. Like 5 years ago, you might have heard of COIL. Sometimes you heard of the term virtual exchange. During the pandemic, that became something, but this sort of predates that as well. That's an exciting thing that could happen in some of the classrooms. We've partnered with an organization to provide internships in international placements in cool places like Tokyo, and I think there's one in Barcelona and whatnot. Interesting experience. If somebody wants to go abroad, but not to engage in a classroom experience, but maybe they want to work for a marketing company in Tokyo or something. So there's an initiative we're working on there. Our internationalization strategy is nearing completion, and it should provide sort of a framework for how we want to drive things here in close concert with our UFV integrated strategic plan, which of course includes many elements now of indigenization. So students may be able to embark on an intercultural experience that helps them maybe see our own backyard and our own First Nations communities, as well as those in other countries as well, perhaps as a mobility experience. So lots of things happening. I know as soon as we turn off the mic, I'll say, why didn't I tell Andrea this one? The coolest thing about the job is it never gets boring. I used a picture of a roller coaster in a presentation the other day, and sometimes people, my wonderful colleagues, are like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And I sort of laugh. I think, no, if my job were the same every single day, it would be boring. And I'm extremely fortunate to work with people on all continents, as well as in my own office and senior administration, the incredible faculty we have, to make an interesting job that's different every single day. It's wonderful.
David, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here with us. Thank you so much for sharing your time, your insights, and we hope to have you back here in India at FEI again soon.